Hello everyone. So I will be solving another LeetCode problem called find the difference of two arrays. So let's read the problem first. Given two zero indexed integer array nums1 and nums2, return a list of answer of size 2 where so answer is a list where the first element of that list is a list of all distinct integers in nums1 which are not present in nums2. Okay, so basically we need to find all the numbers which does exist in nums1, but they are not present in nums2. And similarly, I think the same thing we need to do. We need to make a answer one should be a list of all distinct integer in nums2 which are not present in nums1. Okay, so basically opposite of what we are gonna do in the first. It asks first that we need to create a list which contains all the elements which exist in nums1 but does not exist in nums2, and in the next list it asks us to have all the elements of nums2 which are not present in nums1. So pretty straightforward. Let's take a look at examples first so that we know what we are thinking is actually correct. So we need to find the first list should be all the elements which exist only in nums1, does not exist in nums2. So one just exists in nums1, does not exist in nums2. I think that's why over here we see one exists in first list of so basically output is list of list. The first element of that list would be all the numbers which exist only in nums1, and the second list of the element or second element of a list of list would contains all the elements which exist in only in nums2. So let's take, so one definitely exists, does not exist in nums2, that's why it's in the output. 2 does exist in both, so we are not going to consider 2. 3 only exists in nums1, does not contains in nums2, that's why 1 and 3 is the first list of list, and the second list of list would be all the elements just contain in nums2. So let's take a look. 2 does contain in both, so we are not going to take 2. Let's take second element of nums2. 4 does not contain in, it only contains in nums2, does not exist in nums1, so 4 exists. And the last element is 6. 6 only exists in nums2, does not exist in nums1, that's why 4 and 6 is the answer. So first example is pretty straightforward. Let's take a look at second example. So there are, one thing which you can observe straight away is that we have duplicates over here, but in answer there isn't any duplicate, right? And same with nums2. So one thing we know, and also let's take a look at the explanation. What does it say? For nums1, nums1 2 and nums1 3 are not present in nums2, since nums1 second index equals to nums1 third index, their value is only included once. Okay, so it clearly mentions that we are only including one. 3 only exists in once, it does not exist in nums2, so we are just including once, right? It's avoiding the duplicates. So as soon as we know that we need to avoid duplicates, one thing which clicks in our mind is that we should be using set, so that which removes the redundant element. So so that's one of our strategy. Let's convert both the arrays into a set so that we will remove the duplicates. So nums1 would become 1 2 3 and nums2 will become 1 and 2. So we know in nums1 1 and 2 1 2 3 3 is the only unique element which exists in only nums1, does not exist in nums2, and over here 1 and 2 only does not, so 1 and 2 is also common in nums1, so essentially that's why this is empty. Pretty straightforward, right? So let's implement our first strategy, which is converting both the arrays into a set so that all the duplicates are actually removed. So let's do that. Let's create set and let's name it S1 for simplicity, and let's initialize it by giving it nums1 array. So nums1 dot begin, so pointer to the nums1 array, and let's give it nums2 dot end. And same thing we are gonna do for nums2 vector as well, for nums2 array. We are gonna call it as 2. Oh, actually I did a mistake. It should be nums1 dot end. Begin. Okay, so we have already created two sets. Now what we need to do is we will be iterating set 1 first, and will find if any of the elements in S1 are present in S2. If they are, we are going to ignore it. If they are not, then we are going to include it in our answer. So let's also create a vector, right, where we'll be storing those numbers. So let's just call it nums1 only. Call this nums1 only, and another would be nums2 only. So we will be storing all the elements which we are gonna get into these two vectors. So let's just iterate real quick. So I'm iterating in S1, and now I'll be finding if S2.find, if it's equal to S.end, which means that it iterated the entire container S1, oh sorry, S2, and it did not find A. That means A is unique to set 1, so we are just gonna include it into nums1 only dot pushback. And same thing we can do for the other set as well, which is S2. So auto B in S2. We will find this element B in S1, and if we do not find it in S1, that means this is strictly a element which just exists in set S2. We're just gonna push it into our nums2 only vector. Right, and once we have that, we are just gonna return both the vectors. So it's gonna be nums1 only. Also the order does not matter, right? Over here it says the order does not matter, so you can all include the nums2 only first, then nums1, or nums1 first and nums2 second. So it doesn't really matter, you can do it in whichever way you want. Let's try to run this. All right, it got accepted. Let's submit this. All right, so it successfully got submitted. So let's review it again. So what I'm doing it, rather than iterating all the elements of nums1 and checking if they exist in nums2, I'm just creating a set, right? And the reason I'm creating a set is because I want to avoid the situation where there are duplicates element in a vector. So what it's gonna do is S1 will have 1, 2, 3, and S2 will just have 1 and 2, and this will break down the problem, or further simplify the problem, so that we don't have to deal with the duplicate ones. So once we convert it into S1 and S2, we are gonna iterate in S1 and see if the element which I'm iterating, or the element of S1, if they don't exist in S2, that means they are strictly they just exist in S1, they don't exist in S2, and we wanna just include that in our array which we are creating, which I'm calling nums1 only. And same thing I'm gonna do over here, but rather than iterating in S1, I'm gonna iterate in S2 and then see if this element which exists in S2 does not exist in S1. If it does not exist in S1, I'm just gonna push back it into the other array I have created, and then at the end I'm just returning nums1 only and nums2 only. Pretty easy question. This question is only trying to test your skill to actually use an appropriate data structure, and which we do over here, set. So just converting the array into set so that we don't really have to care about the duplication. Pretty easy, right? Nothing fancy. So I hope you understand this problem, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.